King Nebuchadnezzar, the most powerful king of the ancient Babylonian Empire, still young at the beginning of his reign, and young prophet Daniel and his three friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These are the characters we are meeting in the story that you are very much, most of you, familiar with. And we find it in the book of the prophet Daniel, chapter 2 and 3. We are not going to get into details, but we are going to just get a few thoughts, few relevant ideas. One night, King Nebuchadnezzar, ambitious King Nebuchadnezzar, growing to become filled with a sense of self-importance, had a dream which troubled him. He is asking his wise men, this was the elite that was trained, educated, and well paid, to interpret the dreams and enigmas and mysterious things. And he tells them, I'm not going to tell you the dream. I want you to tell me what my dream was and also what it was about. Some people are saying that King Nebuchadnezzar must have forgotten his dream. I don't believe that he did. I think that he had a sense that there was some great importance attached to his dream, and that he wanted to make sure that he was going to receive a truthful interpretation of his dream. So he thought, if those people have an insight into what I actually dreamt, then I could trust them also with their interpretation. And obviously those wise people couldn't do anything about this. And King Nebuchadnezzar was so angry that he actually ordered that all the wise men of Babylon be killed. And so, whether they did start killing them or not, or they were just about to start killing the wise men of Babylon, there we meet young prophet and young official, Babylonian official, Daniel and his three friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And Daniel was a very wise man, and he approached the captain who was responsible for the killing, and he, with wisdom and discernment, he asked him if he can somehow ask the King Nebuchadnezzar to give him and his friends a little bit more time so they can pray about this. And they will come before the King Nebuchadnezzar with a dream and also with a truthful interpretation. So it was like that. After all, prayer, young prophet Daniel is coming in the presence of the king, and he is telling the king not only the interpretation of the dream, but also what actually King Nebuchadnezzar dreamt. And obviously, this must have fascinated the King Nebuchadnezzar. He was not expecting anything of that kind. And then comes the interpretation, and Daniel simply says, I'm just quickly reinterpreting. He said, you were troubled with what was going to come after you. You were troubled with the sense of your greatness. You wanted to achieve something that will last forever, for thousands and thousands of years. And this is what you were thinking about before you received that dream. And God came to tell you that he rules, that he has the final word, that it is he who, whichever way the history goes and whichever way all the kind of political and power struggles are being manipulated with, at the end of the day, it's going to be the way God wants it to be. He has the final word. Daniel says to the king, to the young, ambitious King Nebuchadnezzar, he says, you are the head of gold. I don't think that this was something that pleased King Nebuchadnezzar. He wanted very much to be made up completely of gold, from the toe to the top of his head. Now he is hearing the message and says, no, you are the head of gold, and after you there will be others coming. Your kingdom is limited. It has the end. It will not last for 1,000 years. You are not announcing the golden age of the Babylonian kingdom. And when we go into the history, actually, it didn't last for too long. Really, Daniel outlived the Babylonian kingdom. But one thing let's remember from the whole story, that King Nebuchadnezzar was brave enough to accept the interpretation, but was not happy with what he heard. And how do we know this? We go to chapter number 3. And there is a number of years in between chapter 2 and 3. In chapter 2, king is still a very young king. He's just begun reigning as the king of the Babylon. In chapter 3, he is already, I would say, a seasoned king. He has had many victories against the nations that were surrounding him. He defeated practically the entire world that was at his reach, and that was quite a lot of territory. And there is a conflict between his victories and his success and the message of that dream from chapter 2. And I believe that the king Nebuchadnezzar must have been thinking about this dream often. I am only the head of gold. I am only the head of gold. I am not entirely made of gold. And I may feel strong and powerful right now, but the message of this dream in chapter 2 is telling me all of this is going to end probably sooner than later. So in chapter 3, King Nebuchadnezzar, after many victories, his kingdom being firmly established, either I saw it wrongly, or maybe even Daniel made a mistake in his interpretation. Something was wrong because the facts on the ground are telling me something else, that I am the king. I am God himself. I am this statue made of gold from the top to the bottom, or the other way around. I am that. No one can convince me otherwise. I am that king that is going to represent the kingdom that is going to last forever. This golden age of Babylon, golden kingdom that cannot be defeated, and no one is going to be defeated. And he now wants to demonstrate that this is so. And he is organizing a big festival. In chapter 3, we are reading about this big festival. And he is not inviting, he actually is forcing that all the leaders of the provinces and the regions and the kingdoms that are under his submission, that all of the leaders of the entire Babylonian kingdom come to this one place to honor and worship the image of gold made from the top to the bottom of gold, which I believe was supposed to represent King Nebuchadnezzar himself. Even if it was an image of certain god of Nebuchadnezzar, at the end of the day, it was to represent the everlasting glory and power of the golden age of the Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom. And he orders. There was a music there. There was a sense of glory. There was a sense of something solemn happening. And Nebuchadnezzar said, the king Nebuchadnezzar said, you are all going to bow down. You are all going to prostrate yourself. You are all going to bend your knee when you hear the music, the sound of music. You are all going to worship me. And if you do not, tough luck on you. Tough luck on you. I have here a furnace that I made sure that is very hot, and we are not going to debate about this. I've been giving executive orders one after the other, and it's not a problem for me to give another one. And I'm actually giving it now. If you do not bow down, if you do not bend the knee, you will end up in this fire. And may the Lord help you then. So here we have the situation. Here we have, and you know how it is with the hearts of people. They change their codes overnight. You would be astonished, actually, how quickly that has been done. You know, I remember 30 years ago when in a former Yugoslavia, things were changing from socialism or communism to supposedly capitalism. And I remember how quickly actually the most influential people in the republics of former Yugoslavia, how they were changing overnight. Suddenly, from being communists, they were becoming Democrats, or I don't know what, Suddenly there was a change because they had a sense, they knew they had to do it to survive, not only to survive, but also to succeed in the new circumstances. So this is what was happening there. There was no problem to convince all this crowd of leaders, international community of leaders. There was no problem to convince them to bend the knee, to prostrate themselves there, to pay the honor to the everlasting glory of the golden kingdom of Nebuchadnezzar. And they did it. They did it joyfully, and probably many of them hypocritically. The three friends of Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, decided they would not bend the knee. They decided they will not bow down. They decided they will not prostrate themselves there. And the story is long, and I will make it short if possible. They didn't do it, but there were some eyes there. There were some eyes there. Their duty was to report on what's happening. They were very much observing around who would not listen to the king. And here they are. They're coming to the king. Oh, king, we have found those three young men. They are not listening to you. And the king Nebuchadnezzar is now calling Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego into his presence. He knows them very well. It's not that he didn't know who those three men were. He calls them and he says, is it true? Is it true that you do not worship my image of gold? Is it true that you do not worship me? I'm giving you another chance. When you hear the music start playing, will you bow down? And those three men, and we have those powerful words they say in chapter 3. Let me just go back for a moment, because I think this is very important in chapter 3, in Daniel chapter 3. And here we have verse 15. Even the king Nebuchadnezzar is so cynical, and he says, listen, I have this fire prepared for you, and it will be even done 7 times more than usual. And what God is going to save you from my hands? And this is where I'm coming now with the way those three young men are responding to him. Verse 16, chapter 3 says, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you in this matter. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to save us from it, and he will rescue us from your hand, O king. But even if he does not, we want you to know, O king, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold you have set up. Their message was very clear and brave. We are not going to bend our knee. We are not going to prostrate ourselves in the presence of this golden image. We are not going to worship your golden age, because this is idolatry. This is insult. This is an offense in the eyes of our God. We are not going to do it. Somehow this message from the book of the prophet Daniel, chapter 23, came to me yesterday so forcefully after this viral video that really went around the world. This idolatrous video, this blasphemous video, very short one, but crowded with several layers of messages and meaning. And the message which I received immediately was, in addition to obscenities, in addition to humiliation of the people against whom this video is actually being made, is actually this situation. Those three young men standing in the presence of the golden image of the king, who was craving power, who was craving the importance of this toxic king, who was by then filled with such a sense of self-importance that he thought that nothing and no one else mattered but him, himself, and what he is building, covering under false pretext of building a golden age of Babylon. My question, my friends, to myself, beginning with myself and then to all of you is, who are the Daniels, the Shadrach, the Meshachs, and Abednegos of today? Are you one of those? Am I one of those? Will I be strong enough to say to the idolatry of this new promised golden age of our modern day king, Nebuchadnezzar? Because I have a feeling, my friends, that as we move on, and if you just consider how radically this country and the world has changed beyond the point of return in just last 4 weeks, and I wonder and I ask myself, what is it going to look like in the next 4 weeks or 2 months? And I have such a feeling that we will be increasingly in different ways, maybe in some the most literal ways and maybe in some other more subliminal, but nevertheless not less literal and concrete ways, be brought to a situation when it will be required of us that we bend the knee, that we prostrate ourselves, that we made our expressions of loyalty to the golden age, golden image of the modern day, our own King Nebuchadnezzar. And should time come, such as this one that we have been describing here, and we have no choice to go left or right, no choice to dodge the trouble, that we may also very plainly make a statement and say, we will not bow down. We will not worship your idol of self-glorification and false golden kingdom, because your kingdom will never and can never replace the kingdom of God, neither on earth nor in heaven. Thank you, my friends, for being patient with me, and may the Lord bless you.